down, just the usual up arrow, down arrow? Okay.
That's it. Correct.
Okay. Very, very
No
good.
one else
And
will be able to go forward and back except for you.
okay, very, very good. And do we know how many undergrads we have? How many grads we have?
Let's get a show of hands. How many graduate students are here in the chat room? If you're a grad, just write grad, great. For those of you who are undergrads, just write undergrad or prospective bachelor students, perfect. We have 2 grads so far. Grad, mostly grad.
Okay. Do we have any undergrads? Because if there isn't, then we can just keep some of the stuff that is
Skip
relevant to.
over it. Yeah. Do we have any prospective undergraduate students here? Anybody in high school? No. Looks like it's just grad. And I think if we do get some undergrads in between,
Okay.
we can take their questions at the end of the session. Is that all right?
Okay, that's great. Yes, I just wanted to be sure that I don't bore everyone with the undergrad information if they're not.
Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. Well, let's get started. Is anyone there? Okay, Bilal, we're right here. Can you hear us? In any case, we'll get started. Hi, everybody. My name is Rafia, and I'm an advisor at the United States Educational Foundation in Pakistan. I'm based out of Lahore, and I work specifically for Education USA and Fulbright Commission. I'm really happy to have Grace here at West Virginia University. She is a wealth of information, and Grace, please get started.
Okay, very, very good. Well, thank you so much for organizing this. I'm sure this is going to be beneficial for everybody that is listening in or attending the webinar. And we look forward, of course, to having any questions that you might have at the end. I'll try to move along quickly so that we have enough time for questions at the end. So my name is Grace Etebe. I work out of the Office of International Students and Scholars at West Virginia University, and my main role here is basically to help international students, support international students, advocate for international students, and provide advice that goes into discussing any immigration-related matters and, of course, just progress and success at the university level. So what I will be talking about are things that are specific to West Virginia University, which I will refer to as WVU in short for West Virginia University. And then talk about what we have to offer in terms of programs, academic programs, support systems available, and also we'll also be talking about the admission process, opportunities for funding. We'll focus more on the graduate program funding because that's who we have in the audience. So hopefully this will be beneficial to you as we move forward. And let me see here. Okay, Rafi, the slides are not moving.
All right.
Okay. Okay, so what we'll do is that's just a snapshot of one of the oldest buildings that we have on campus, which is called Woodburn. And it just kind of shows you the spectacular campus that we have here. That's just one of the very many buildings that we have on campus that you will be seeing if you do end up coming on campus. So most of you might be asking, where is West Virginia? Because I'm not sure how many of you have heard of it. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of New York and Las Vegas and Florida, those kinds of places. But West Virginia University is one of the 50 states in the U.S. Morgantown is where the school is located. So Morgantown is a small town in West Virginia. It's located pretty close to some of the cities that you might also be more familiar with, like Washington, D.C., Pittsburgh, which is in Pennsylvania. We're about 3 hours drive from Washington, D.C., about an hour drive from Pittsburgh, and probably about 5 hours drive to New York. So if you came to school here, it's not too far from some of the major cities that you might have heard of previously, and it's easy to commute from area to area. So should not be an issue about, I don't know West Virginia University or I don't know where West Virginia is. It's pretty close to a lot of big cities. The population is about 60,000, so it is a small town, and about half of those people that live in West Virginia University are typically students. So that's why we call it a college town. College town meaning that predominantly everything that goes on around here is related to the campus, or is you're either working for the school, you're attending school, and so on and so forth. Now, what is the beauty of West Virginia in terms of a city, or Morgantown in terms of a city? If you come from a foreign place, which I did myself as an international student, it's very hard to transition to a big city sometimes because it's just so busy. Everything is so fast. People are so busy with their own lives, and sometimes there's not a lot of support, so you feel like you're really, really lost. And learning, the systems, whether it's transportation and so on and so forth, can be very challenging. So the beauty of why a lot of students, international students, choose to go to some of the smaller towns, it's a much easier transition. There's not a lot to struggle with in terms of transition. People normally, as I said, it's 60,000 population. It's almost like everybody knows everybody else. So it's easy to get a network and be able to fit into the community and be able then to find a new normal very, very quickly without feeling alone and feeling lost. So some of the things that are available for people to do around here will be a lot of mountains, a lot of rivers, so skiing, rafting, hiking, snow skiing, and all that. Those are things that you might be able to do around here because it's a very mountainous area, very, very beautiful scenery. As you can see, some of those pictures are from some of the sceneries of students doing activities outdoors. Maybe now to focus a little bit more on West Virginia as a whole, West Virginia University. It is the flagship institution of West Virginia, which means it's kind of like the main campus in West Virginia State. We have about 191 different programs ranging from undergraduates to graduates, like meaning master's and PhD level. And of course, we have a lot of international students. The total student population is about 29,000. When you add other half-time or part-time students, it can go up to about 33,000. And of those, about 2,000 are international students. So that makes up about maybe 70%, or sorry, 7% or thereabout. Most of these students come from over 100 different countries. You can see there some of the countries that are very, very heavily represented on campus. India and China, I'm sure, are typically more or less what it is that you're used to hearing about students studying abroad. Normally, they'll be there from China or India. But lately, we have also started seeing a lot of students from the Middle East. So Saudi Arabia, Kuwait are some of the areas that we get a lot of students from, and Brazil as well. Main reason being because a lot of these countries have government sponsorship for their students to come and study abroad. But from China and India, a lot of them are self-sponsored, paying from their families and who are taking care of their stay here. That's just a snapshot again of the downtown campus in Morgantown. A lot of administrative buildings, classrooms, and so on. As you can see, it's a very, very beautiful campus, and we hope that you have the opportunity to come and study here and be a part of that. Now, who are mountaineers? Why do we call ourselves mountaineers? I think you remember me saying earlier on in the presentation that it's a very mountainous place. So that is where we get our name from. We are passionately called the mountaineers. And the way that we define ourselves, we're people who like to be pioneers, making sure that we are getting solutions and creative solutions to problems that face societies today, making sure that we are passionate about not just academics, because it's good to be great academically, but we also want people to be involved in things outside of the classroom. So athletics is a big deal, community service is a big deal. We have a school spirit that is unmatched. A lot of students here are really, really united in everything that we do, whether it's athletics or academics and so on. We want to be innovative, but more than anything else, we also want to be a caring people, caring for others, serving others, and making sure that whatever we do is a positive influence on the state of West Virginia and the world at large. And that's why we keep on striving to make sure that a lot of international students come to this campus, are able to go back home and continue sharing some of those values that we hold very dear. As I mentioned, sports is a big deal here. That is what actually creates the school spirit. Even people who've graduated from here are very, very endeared to the campus. They want to come back. They want to be involved in what's going on campus. So, and the big thing that we really, really rally around is sports. So, basketball, men's football, whether it's track and field events. And the reason that I bring this up is because there are also opportunities to get athletic scholarships to be able to go to study at West Virginia. So if you're great at something that is athletic, you will definitely be rewarded for as long as you are part of the school team. So it is a big deal. If you have a talent, do not think it's just something that is just a pastime. It can actually put you through school. So do not sit on your talents. Make sure you mention what you're great at, and who knows where that could take you. So be very, very conscious about things that you're good at, even if it's things outside of the classroom. As I said, we like to do a whole nurturing. It's academics, along with other things that we feel are important so that to make a person a whole, well-developed person. So the next few slides, I'm just going to show you different pictures. This is our football stadium, which you can see is packed with students who have come out to cheer for the football team, all wearing their blue and gold, which is our favorite school colors, and that's how we define ourselves. And that is just an aerial shot from of the football team as well. This is what we call the Coliseum, where most of our basketball sports are held. A lot of people go out there to watch the basketball team play. We are very, very good at basketball and football. So again, this is what creates that school spirit. Through the winning highs and the losing lows and all that, we still rally around each other, and we make sure that a lot of students definitely feel like they belong, because this is what brings us together as a university. Now, why do we feel so passionately about certain things, especially as I talked about being on the cutting edge of solutions and so on? We do want to make sure that at the end of the day, we are providing something that makes this world a better place. So we can only do that by providing a cutting edge education, which you will be a part of if you do attend WVU. We also want to make sure that we create in every student that comes here the curiosity to discover and innovate new things that will move us forward as a human race. We are very passionate about being diverse on campus, and that's why we keep on talking about having more students on campus who are not just Americans, but from all parts of the world. We want to make sure when those students arrive here, they are feeling like they are included in everything that is going on campus. So we preach and we practice diversity and inclusion. And we also want to make sure, of course, that at the end of the day, whatever knowledge that you get from here is going to be productive, not just in the state of West Virginia, but also to the rest of the country, to the rest of the world. So when you go back home, we want you to spread whatever it is that you have learned here to make changes in your own home country. I know most people normally ask, oh my gosh, how do I know whether the degree I'm going to get from a certain school, is it, valid? Is it going to be recognized when I go back home? How do I know it's going to get me a job? And the simple answer to that is that when you're looking for schools, make sure that you find schools that are accredited. Accredited meaning that they have met certain set standards nationally and internationally that then qualifies their programs as good programs. So we are accredited through the Higher Learning Commission, and we're also accredited through the North Central Association, which is basically a regional association from where we are located in terms of West Virginia as a state. So the degree that you get from here out of the 191 that we just mentioned earlier, it is going to be a valuable degree that will be recognized worldwide. Specific programs also are accredited through well-recognized international organizations such as the AACSB that accredits most of the business colleges, and we are one of those privileged colleges of about 100 that definitely are part of that accredited association. And so again, that is just to show that every program in its own right is a quality program. Same thing with engineering, which is accredited through the ABET, if you've heard of that before. So those are programs that are definitely recognized worldwide. And if you say I have a degree from West Virginia University that is accredited through ABET or through AACSB for business or other kinds of programs, everybody recognizes that's a very, very good program that you have graduated from. So now let's talk a little bit about specifics, because I'm sure you want to know a little bit more about the academic programs at West Virginia. As I said, we have a lot of faculty, we have a lot of students on campus. At the end of the day, those faculty and students work together to make sure that a lot of students who have come here, invested their time, invested their money, will be able to graduate. So our graduation rates are about 86%, which is of course above the national average. And the reason that I bring that up is because at the end of the day, when you come all the way to study, the most important thing is you want to go home with a degree. So if you work well with your faculty, you work well with other students, you work well and commit yourself to doing the right things, then you'll definitely be able to graduate with a degree and go back home and be productive in your career. Um, some of the things that I wanted to talk about, we've already talked about this. There's certain things that are kind of specific to West Virginia University. Um, and one of them is that, of course, we are one of about 11 land grant institutions that provide, that also have a comprehensive medical school, for those of you that might be thinking about medical school. We also have one of the very few programs that is very, very well known around the world in forensics and investigative sciences, which is one of the STEM related fields: science, technology, engineering, and math. And we work very, very closely with the FBI. So if that's an area that you're interested in, we definitely would be one of the choices, of the very few choices that you have to pursue a forensics degree. If you're interested in doing petroleum natural gas engineering, we are one of about 3 institutions in the US that offer a joint petroleum natural gas engineering program. A lot of programs will either have just a petroleum engineering, but not petroleum and natural gas. And I'm sure, as most of you do know, natural gas is the way to go now. So that's a good area to be able to be ready for as we transition more into natural gas energy. Um, I'm going to skip the next few slides because they're a little bit more specific to undergraduate students. So unless we had undergraduate students who have joined us since we began the seminar, I'm not going to focus too much on the undergraduate enrollments or undergraduate admission criteria because it's really not going to be worth it. But as you can see there, for the numbers tell you exactly where we lie. About 22,000 students are undergraduates, about 6,000 are graduate students, and the total number comes to about 29,000, and actually that number is up to about 30,000 by the most recent count. And then we have 6 students from Pakistan. Most of them are graduate students. So hopefully we hope to push those numbers up. And so by way of attending this seminar or this webinar, I hope that we probably will have a couple of you also join us so we can push those numbers up. And so before we start talking about the application process, I know most people, of course, the main decision to attending a college or attending university or any other program is a cost. And because that cost is always an issue, let's put that out there so that we can be able then to move forward into the application process. So in terms of the tuition and fees, I'm going to divide those into 2 different categories. So tuition and fees, and also we are going to talk about room and board. So tuition basically just means when you register for a class or classes, what is the cost of being able to get the services from that particular class that you registered for. So that is the tuition. And then the fees are what you pay, of course, to use facilities on campus, whether that be transportation, whether that be the libraries, whether that be, the learning centers and so on and so forth. So that fee is already paid up front. So when you talk about the tuition and fees, just in terms of classes and other facilities, for the graduate students, your tuition and fees could come to 21,000 roughly, and that is fall and spring semester. So basically, we are talking about if you started going to school in August, which is when fall begins, and all the way through to May, which is when spring semester ends. For those 9 months, in terms of tuition and fees, you would at least need to be prepared with about $21,000. And that also might vary based on different academic programs, because somebody that is in engineering and someone that is in business and somebody else that is in biology may not all pay the same fees, because those also vary from academic program to academic program. Now, these are some of the facilities that we talked about, the fees. That's the downtown library. You can see it's obviously a very beautiful building, which is well equipped with books and everything, and all sorts of internet services and what have you. So for them to be able to maintain that library to world-class level, of course, that's why we charge some of the fees, which you then, have to pay to be able to have those services that are very, very helpful. The student union, which is where most of the students gather and spend a lot of time and are involved in all sorts of activities, including game areas and so on, to keep students busy and relaxed to do the in-between classes. So that also is one of the reasons that we charge a student fee, so we can be able to better provide those services. The gym, I'm sure we're all very conscious about our health and our fitness levels. So that is also one of the reasons that we charge a fee to be able to maintain this particular facility, so you can use them. So when you come on campus, be sure to be active and involved in things around you, not just school, because you've already paid a fee to be able to utilize some of these services. The rec center that we have actually here, which is a gym, is one of the best college gymnasiums that we have on campus. So we hope that if you do show up, you'll be able to see and be a part of that. To the right, you can see that little thing that says West Virginia University. That's what we call the PRT, Personal Rapid Transit. It's a little train that runs between all the campuses on here, so you're able to move from one campus to the other, from one campus to the other, and also that is embedded in the fee or any other bus system that you might choose to use. So all that adds up to the 21,000 that we talked about, including, of course, your classes that you had already registered for. Room and board, these are rates that are for students who are staying on campus in the residence hall. So we are not going to focus on that because a lot of our graduate students do not live on campus. They would live off campus, renting from different landlords up around town. So these fees are not particularly specific to graduate students. But again, if you're talking about living off campus, normally you can get a comfortable place to live in a safe area, a clean area, and that normally would range from about $450 per month to anywhere that you want it to go, including $900, $1,000. Just depends on your own budget, but you can live very comfortably in an apartment for about $450 a month. And then, of course, you need to include your food and other costs in there. And so you can be able then to get a total of what it is that it would cost for you to live on campus. Again, these are meal plans which are specific to the residence halls, which a lot of graduate students would not use. But if you put your own budget in terms of how much would it cost me to eat over the cost of a month, then I guess you can come up with a general estimate of how much it would cost you. So if you add the tuition and fees that we talked about, you add the living expenses that we talked about, $450 to $500 a month times 12, and then you also add the food and everything else that you might need for your personal needs. For graduates, at least be prepared with about $33,510 at least to push you through the year. So that is something that you want to put at the back of your mind as you're planning on attending a school in the U.S. And at least those are the figures in terms of attending school at West Virginia University. So having talked about the cost, and now that you know what it might entail for you to be able to study in the U.S., we want to talk a little bit more about funding. How can you reduce the funding so that you're actually able to attend if you cannot come up with a total cost of about 33,000 that we just mentioned. Now, all this is undergraduate scholarship, so I'm going to skip through that because we don't have undergraduate students attending. But for graduate funding, I'm not sure if some of you have probably heard about assistantships, graduate assistantships,
Yeah,
and if you
I think they're mostly,
they have.
yeah.
Okay, so that is one way that a lot of our students do go or do fund themselves through campus. Mainly, you are expected, of course, to either teach on campus, either do research on campus with some faculty member, typically somebody within your department, or be able to do some administrative work on campus through other offices around campus. So it is actually a work obligation. You have to work at least 20 hours per week. And in return, then you get a full tuition waiver, which already takes away that 22,000 that we talked about for tuition. And it also gives you a stipend or a monthly allowance so that you can be able to take care of your personal costs. And you also get health insurance because ideally you are an employee of the university. So technically speaking, it's almost like you're going to school for free, other than, of course, that you have to give in your 20 hours of work per week. And this is a very, very, very good way for you to be able to fund your studies in the US. The other options would also be fellowships, which we don't have a whole bunch, but there is a few, and fellowships are normally through some kind of a nomination process. So you might come with some very, very high quality grades. You might come with some very, very good experience from things that you have done in your life, whether professionally or otherwise. And a certain department feels that they absolutely have to have you for you to be able to contribute some of your expertise to whatever else it is that they are doing within their department. So you can be nominated for a fellowship, which again kind of works like an assistantship. The only difference here being that you may not get a stipend, but at least you'll get the tuition waiver and other benefits, but not necessarily a stipend. Some of them might provide stipend, some of them might not. So it just depends on how your department works it out. Then we also have what we just call a merit tuition waiver. A merit tuition waiver means that you have come in with extremely good grades from your previous academic work, and again to give you some kind of a break so you can be able to come and continue further education. You may get what we call a tuition waiver. In this case, it's just basically, it's not guaranteed that it could be a full tuition waiver for all the classes that you take. It could be a partial tuition waiver, could be 3 hours, could be 6 hours, could be 9 hours, whatever the case may be, depending on availability. So in this case, again, there's no stipend, there's no allowance that you're getting. It's just straightforward. Some kind of money is deducted in terms of almost like a discount on your tuition for college. So those are some of the ways that you might want to be able to look at some of these options in terms of reducing your cost for attending college. Now, the main question that I normally get is, but how am I supposed to be able to get this stuff? How do I start the process? And what I would say to you is, even before you start applying, you need to make sure that you have started getting some kind of network going with your department. So if you're applying, for instance, say maybe to the engineering program, you want to do, I don't know, mechanical engineering or something. So then the first thing you want to ask yourself is, okay, I want to do mechanical engineering. I don't know anybody in that department. How do I know what's available in terms of funding? The first thing I would advise you to do is go to the website of the engineering department, mechanical engineering. Look at all the stuff that particular department is doing, whether it's in terms of research or whether it's in terms of job opportunities. Look at those particular processes and understand exactly what each faculty member is doing. So if you see that there is a faculty member that is doing research, for instance, in an area that you're passionate about, an area that you have experience in, an area that maybe you feel that you have some kind of value that you can bring to the table to add value to the particular work that is going on in the department, reach out to that faculty member. Let them know, this is what I've done previously, this is the experience that I have to offer, and so on and so forth. I would love to work with you with your research project, and this is what I have to add to bring to the table. A lot of people are looking for students who have some kind of an experience that they can actually help them with research, because remember, they are busy teaching, they're busy publishing, and they're also busy doing research. So any help they can get, they are looking forward to get it. So as long as you put yourself out there and make sure that they understand what it is that you have to offer, they'll be happy to engage you and be able to potentially look at having you employed for them in terms of a graduate research assistant. Or if you're doing very, very well in certain subjects, based on your classes, or you have some teaching experience because you've already taught in your home country, please be sure to mention that on your personal statements, and also as you engage with the department that you're applying to, because that also puts you on the forefront for you to be able to bring that teaching experience and share it in the department teaching certain courses, potentially undergraduate courses. So that's the best way to go. So don't wait until your application is complete, you have got everything taken care of, and then when you show up, that's when you say, oh, I'd like to get some kind of funding assistance. Make those connections well before. You have got to start that process well in advance, even before you apply. So A, they know you're qualified. B, you put your name on the map. And C, there is no way that you can short sell yourself if you exactly have what the department is looking for. So they need to know about you personally so they can be able to find a place for you that you would be beneficial to them. So those are some of the things that you need to bear in mind. So now let's talk about the application procedure. Basically, it is an online application, as most schools do now. So you would go to the application, to the admissions website, and fill out the online application. There is always an application fee, which is almost like a processing fee of $60. That is non-refundable, whether you get admission or not. Then we always require a test of English as a foreign language, TOEFL, or IELTS, which is one of the options that a lot of students are taking now. And I do know that, yes, it is kind of a pain when you talk about, well, but I've been learning English all my life, I'm proficient in the language, and so on and so forth. Do I still have to take the test? I would encourage you that, yes, you do still have to take the test as much as it's such a pain because again, especially when it comes to hiring international students for some of these positions, such as teaching assistants or research assistants, people do look at those test scores and see whether you are actually proficient. Because remember, you're not here to really vouch for yourself that you do know the language. So the only way that people know that you actually are proficient in the language is normally if you have those test scores that they can look at and be impressed by. So don't worry about the cost. Don't worry about the time it takes to prepare for them. Just do it because it can pay off in the end in terms of getting those employment opportunities for funding options. We always require certified copies of academic records, whether those be transcripts, certificates of completion, whether it's for your undergraduate program that you had done before, those have to be sent in. And we need them to be not to be scanned because of sometimes scanned documents, as you all know, it has become almost uh, unprecedented levels of people using fake documents and so on. So most schools are beginning to be a little bit more cautious about what kinds of documents that they do receive. So you need to make sure that you have your certificates copied, notarized to be true copies or certified to be true copies of the originals. Then send them by mail because those stamps are easier to be able to be verified when you have the hard copy in front of you versus a scanned copy, which is sometimes not clear, sometimes doesn't look very genuine depending on the quality of the copy, and so on and so forth. So we do need you to actually mail in your transcripts and other paperwork that is required. Once you have gone through the admission process, you get your confirmation that you've been admitted for a certain semester. The next part, of course, is to start processing your visa and for you to receive your I-20, which is the document that you take to the embassy to get your visa. We need for you to show that you have sufficient funding. Some of that sufficient funding, of course, can be if you already received some kind of funding from the university, whether it's an offer for a teaching assistantship or research assistantship or whatever, you can send those in as well as any other documents maybe that would help you to show that you actually have enough funding to meet the cost of attendance. And once we get all that, we send you your I-20. And then, of course, the next step is for you then to book your appointment at the embassy and to go in and make sure that you get your visa. Those are the scores for the English requirements. If you decide to do the TOEFL for graduate students, we need at least a 79 and above on the IB. If you decide to do IELTS, then we need at least a 6.5 and above. So those are not difficult scores to get, especially if you already have experience with the English language, and it should be a pretty straightforward test that can get you obviously qualified for admission. We have what we call a roll-in basis of admission, and that basically just means that we accept applications all year round. But we do have some deadlines, although they're not written in stone. So if you're applying for the fall semester, which begins in August, and that's August through to December, then we expect that at least your application should be in by April 1. Again, if you sent your application in May or in June, yes, we will accept it. We'll go ahead and review it and give you a decision. But it kind of really cuts back on how much time you have left yourself to be able to do your visa processing and arrive on campus in a timely manner. So much as these particular deadlines are not set in stone, please pay attention to them because it gives you adequate time to do the other processes that are outside of what we do as an institution because you've got to do those on your own. So that's why we have factored that in to give you about 3 months to do your visa processing and prepare to depart and arrive in the US. If you're applying for spring, January through May, then be sure that your application is in by at least October 1st. And of course, summer, May to August, then we need your application to be in by 15th of February. Um, these are all the different colleges that we have on campus. We have about 15 different colleges. So again, remember we said we have about 191 different majors on campus or academic programs. All of them are housed within these 15 colleges. So whether you're looking for anything to do with agriculture and design, we have those kinds of colleges. If you're looking for biology, chemistry, political science, psychology, and a lot more. Those will be held on the Eberly College of Arts and Sciences. Of course, we have the business school, creative arts, music, dance, theater, all those are housed in there. Um, Engineering, of course, is one of our major colleges that a lot of our international students go to, and of course, business as well. If you're thinking about doing pharmacy or public health, so all these different options are there for you to pursue. You just need to go to the right college, look at what different programs they have to offer, select a major, and go ahead and apply for it. That is the mailing address, and that's basically important for if once you have submitted your online application to send in your transcripts and your other certificates of completion of different programs that you have accomplished. We highly recommend that even though it's a little bit more expensive, always use some courier service because that at least gives you a tracking number, gives you a way of knowing how far and when your documents have been received. Unlike regular mail, which you really have no control over, and you do not know typically whether your mail has been received until you get some kind of communication from our end. So for purposes of just security and proficiency, we highly recommend using a courier service, FedEx, DHL, and anything else. So I don't want to go on talking for way too long. I think I've been talking for maybe about 30 minutes or so, which should leave us ample time for students to be able then to raise any questions or ask anything that might be a little more specific that I may not have covered or that wasn't clear. Rafi, I'll let you basically take it over from here.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you so much. That was a wonderful presentation, and I think it was really informative as well. We're getting some very good questions.
Okay.
We'll be going through most of them if time permits, but you have Grace's email address right there. Please do send her an email if we are unable to answer all your questions. So we'll just go one by one. Here is the first one. I completed my bachelor's, but it was 14 years of formal education. Would it be possible to get admissions into a master's program, or would I be admitted into some kind of a foundation program that would be leading to a master's degree? Or will I again be admitted into a bachelor's program?
No, basically, for as long as you have your documentation showing that you did complete a bachelor's degree, how long ago does not matter. The fact is that you did receive that education and you have that knowledge in you. So you would definitely be considered for a master's program. Granted that sometimes just for your own personal comfort, if you feel that you've been out of school for a long time and some things might not be, as fresh in your memory as they should be, you may choose to do some courses that kind of just help you along that might be at the undergraduate level, but it's not going to be a form. Go ahead.
I think what Yusuf is trying to say is that his bachelor's degree is a 2-year bachelor's degree. So he has 14 years of complete formal education, not 16.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Well, then typically, depending on what program that you're applying to, you may be requested to do some bridge work because normally, yes, the undergraduate degree in the U.S. is considered to be a 4-year program. We do have some institutions, some actually even from Europe, that have a 3-year undergraduate program. So for those students, they typically would go in directly into a master's program. 2 years is not as common as I have had it because that would almost be equivalent to a community college in the US. So they may ask you to do some bridge work before you can proceed into a master's program.
Right. Thank you. We're getting quite a few questions about computer science. Is there a program for a PhD in computer science or information technology at West Virginia?
Yes, we do have a PhD program in computer science and also computer engineering. So both of those would be available, and whichever one you choose is available.
Thank you. The acceptance rate and what are the average GRE scores? You don't have to go through engineering college or any department specific, but if you had a median GRE score for West Virginia, are you able to answer that?
It actually varies from college to college or department to department. Some institutions will require not a specific score, and that is becoming more and more the norm, but they will require some kind of a percentile. So if you're within the 70, 80th percentile, a lot of colleges would be able to accept you. So there is no set score. It's typically a percentile.
All right. All right. For those of you who are asking specifically about the departments or degrees that are offered in West Virginia, just do have a look on their website directly, and I'm sure that they'll be all available there. Let's take some of the questions that are more specific. So, if you guys are asking about a master's in data science, please do go onto their website. It's www.wvu.edu. We'll be sharing that in just a few seconds. Somebody's asking about the job placement opportunities. What are they like for international students who will be graduating from West Virginia? Do you have a figure or an answer for that?
Um, Again, that kind of depends on the program. I know some departments have a very, very aggressive job placement program that they work on, especially engineering, business, journalism, and so on. So for some of those departments, they do work very, very tirelessly to make sure that their students actually do get placed into some kind of jobs, and they have their own little career center that the students can use as they prepare for graduation. And maybe before I get into the specifics, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that once you do graduate from a U.S. university, there is opportunities to work in the U.S., whether it is very specifically through your department that aggressively works with you, or whether it's on your own accord that you look for this job placement. What I'm referring to is basically as an international student, you have the benefit that comes with your F1 visa, which is your student visa, to work in the US on practical training for at least 12 months. And that is a given. There is an application process that goes into it, but once you're through with that application process, you are entitled to at least, and you get your work permit, you are entitled to at least working in the US for 12 months. If you're in those, in the STEM related courses, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, you are actually able to even extend that by an additional 17 months, making it a total of 29 months. So what we normally advise students to do is once you're getting ready for graduation, work very closely with the General Career Services Center on campus. And also, if your department has a specific career services center in the unit, be sure to work with them in terms of getting you interviews, getting you some contacts for different companies where our students typically have ended up working. And that way, then you have some kind of a basis to start your application process. In addition to that, we also do have career fairs where we bring a lot of well-known companies on throughout the U.S. to on campus where they will interview you on the spot. If they like you, you move on to the next round, probably visit their company and then go ahead and get placed. So while I may not have specific answers and say we have 80%, 99.9% placement, but we do every effort to make sure that the student meets the employer and the student is prepared for that process in terms of interviewing and so on and resume building so that you can be able to be better prepared for the workplace. So we'll do everything that we can, and of course there is also your part as a student to do well in terms of being prepared for your interviews and showing up when you're supposed to show up. But yes, we make every effort to make sure that students have that connection and contact with potential employers on campus.
Thank you. That was really, really helpful. Another question is, and we get that a lot also, if one doesn't secure funding at first and goes there for their first semester on his or own, what are the chances of securing funding for the next semester? Because we do often tell our students, get your foot through the door, and hopefully if you maintain a good GPA, you are able to get some sort of funding. What are your thoughts on that?
That is actually very true. Definitely, sometimes it's a lot harder to be able to work your way through the system when you're miles and miles and miles away. But again, there's no harm in starting that process. But remember, yes, if you do not secure funding for that before you arrive on campus, then of course you do have to show up with your own funding. What I will say is that when you do show up with your own personal funding, within that first semester, you do have the opportunity to prove yourself academically because you're here on campus, you have attained grades from WVU, so people know your academic excellence or your academic potential. And also when you're on campus, you can also get yourself to be well known within your own department. So whether it's just volunteering to do certain services in your department, making sure that you have your contacts with various faculty members, kind of putting yourself out there and showing that you are here for not just the academic experience, but just to grow as a person. So as you make your name, as you build your network, it does become a lot easier going forward to find funding through your department or at least in terms of other job opportunities on campus. So that is very true. When you do come in, you may come with your own funding. It does get a lot easier to find your own way of getting funding once you arrive on campus because you're here, you're building networks, you're proving yourself academically, you're proving yourself professionally, you're proving yourself in terms of community service and helping around the department. So that already puts you on the map and people start paying attention to you. And of course, they will be willing to assist if you're having some difficulties.
Thank you. Next question. Does West Virginia University support us in private international loans just in case we can't find a U.S. co-signer?
To be honest, we do have what we call a very small fund that is called an emergency fund. But I would not even talk about that fund being what we would call a fund that you can use to pay for your tuition. It really is supposed to be an emergency fund for something unforeseen that you need quick money for. But in terms of loans for academic purposes, paying your way through college, that's not established. And it's very hard actually to find schools that will establish that for just the very basic reason that it's hard to be able to make sure that it is a system that is well run and tight locked enough to where I don't know what happened, sorry, to where it's tight locked enough to where it will not be abused. And because we don't have a structure in place to make sure that that system is not abused, it's hard to have it on campus without worrying about how does that money get repaid back. So for now, we rely heavily on just funding from, as we said, assistantships or waivers and things like that, where there might be some kind of emergency situation.
Thank you. One of the last few questions. IELTS is expiring on the 9th of March. If he applies before the deadline, will it be considered?
If you apply before the deadline, yes, because once it normally takes about 2 to 3 weeks for that whole application process to be completed. So if you started your application today, we received your scores pretty soon. As long as they are valid when we receive them, then that's okay. But if you send your application in after they have already expired, then of course that will be a problem. So yes, if you send them in before your expiration, we should be able to consider them when we review your documents.
Thank you. And Ali, just a word of advice. You may be admitted into your university on your scores, your current IELTS scores, but when you do apply for your US visa and they do want to have a look at your IELTS, if it's expired by then, I would recommend, just in case, take your IELTS or TOEFL again, just to be on the safe side. You don't want to get into your university but then be denied for a visa. Just a quick question about letters of recommendation. How many do you recommend they send? What are the requirements of that?
The letters of recommendation, a lot of departments will ask for at least 2. Some will ask for just 1, and some will probably just ask for a personal statement. So depending on the program or department that you're applying to, that criteria might change. But typically, at least be prepared with at least 1 to 2 letters of recommendation. And again, just to make a note on that, please make sure that a letter of recommendation is not just, a letter of recommendation. You just want to get it done. So you just run out there, find somebody and have them, write a letter of recommendation. Please make sure it's somebody that knows you well, can speak well about who you are, and can be able to share more than just the typical standard, they're a good student, I've known them for 2 months or 2 years, and I think they would be successful. You want someone who can actually highlight your strengths, even some of your weaknesses and how you have overcome that, somebody that really knows you. So please avoid asking for letters of recommendation from acquaintances or people that don't know you that well, because they really don't do you any service. There are so many letters that are received, and when it's kind of the same letter over and over again, those are the ones that just don't make it through. So make sure that it's an exceptional letter and you've invested in finding someone that can speak to who you are as a person.
All right, and we have a couple of more questions. There was one question actually earlier, and they said, if you want to get into a PhD program, how important are research publications?
Um, Not always do you have to have published to be able to get into a PhD program. I will say, for instance, that I did my PhD in the U.S., having come from Kenya some years back, and I was never asked to provide any publications. It helps, of course, if you do have publications that might give you a leg up, but it's not a requirement. So if you have not published but you're interested in a particular PhD program, it's absolutely okay. Just make sure that, of course, in your personal statement, you can be able to support the reasons why you think that it's important for you to pursue a PhD program. And that really is the whole point of the issue. The issue is not have you published, but why are you passionate about this area or this program, and what do you intend to do with your PhD once you're done? If you can sell yourself great in that way, then the publications are not necessarily an issue.
Somebody's asking a question about medical insurance. Will your tuition fee or your assistantship or whatever kind of scholarship you're getting, would the money you're paying towards your tuition have medical insurance in it?
If you have a teaching assistantship, research assistantship, or administrative assistantship, then you would be covered medically through the health insurance from the institution because you would be considered a WVU employee. If you do not have any of those employment related jobs that we just talked about, then of course you have to have your own medical insurance. And it is actually a requirement that you have that. So as soon as you register for classes, immediately you will be charged a medical insurance fee, which is about $720, $750. So that will normally come up as part of your tuition and fees and all those other costs that we talked about. So if you don't have employment through the school in terms of an assistantship, then yes, you do need to purchase your own medical insurance. Either you can be covered by the school through what it is that we call the Aetna Student Insurance Program, and they cover all sorts of different medical issues, or you can choose to search and buy your own insurance, but it has to be reviewed and be seen to match or to be comparable with what the Aetna Student Insurance Program that we have covers. If it's not comparable, it will be denied and you'll automatically have to be covered by the school provided Aetna insurance program. But if it is comparable, then you can be waived out of the Aetna program and be able then to pay on your own to whatever insurance company that you prefer to be covered by.
Thank you. Grace, one last question. The letter, so if I understood correctly, other than the transcripts, everything else is online, right? So even your letters of recommendation, everything will be able to go online? Or can they send it in a postal address?
We are trying to convert that to an online process for some of those documents to be uploaded, like the recommendation letters. But for right now, we are requesting that at least those be sent with the rest of your package in terms of the transcripts. But the main reason that we require for the transcripts to be sent by mail is because of that certification, the stamps and all those. So even if you scanned your recommendation letters and send them by email directly to the International Admissions Office, that would be fine because those, of course, are not stamped or anything. They're just signed off. But anything that has a stamp that needs to be authenticated and we need to verify that is a true and original, then those need to be sent by mail because those stamps are just more easier to verify in that sense.
Thank you. Grace, do you mind if I just go back to the schools and colleges? Quite a few students are asking questions about, does West Virginia University offer so and so? So this is a slide of all the schools that are currently at West Virginia University. And if you need more information on them, please do visit the website. It's www.wvu.edu. Grace has very graciously shared her email address. If you guys have any more questions about any aspect of the presentation today or anything specific, are they okay to send you an email for that?
Oh, absolutely. Please feel free to email. It's better than calling. If you are inspired to call, go ahead and call. But definitely email is the way to go. It's just much easier, especially with the time difference. So I'll be happy to respond to any follow-up questions.
Thank you so much. And I'm just going to share your email address here once again. Just a reminder for those of you who came in a little bit later, we do have a recording of the webinar. It will be available in maybe 6 minutes or so. And You see at the top left section where it says shared files, you'll be able to just go click on our shared files and the webinar will be titled WVU webinar, okay? Grace, if you have any last few things you wanted to add or anything of the sort, please do share with us. I hope, sorry, please go ahead.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I said I hope that this webinar will increase applications to West Virginia University. That's what we hope. I hope that the caliber of the students that you get, are well-rounded. Again, for those of you who are still logged in, please do go to the website, look for the answers, and if you are unable to find the answers on the website, please do send her an email. And if you have any questions about, how to get started, how to start applying, please do contact your Education USA advisor. We are happy to guide you. Thank you so very, very much, Grace. It was a pleasure having you today.
Thank you so much for having me, and I thank you guys for attending. I appreciate your taking the time. And again, just as a last comment, please don't be shy to ask questions. However, the general they might be, because I know that the application process can be almost intimidating, although it really shouldn't be, but I know that it can be intimidating, and a lot of questions go into the decision-making process. So feel free to share your concerns or any questions that you have. Again, email me. I'll be happy to respond. If I don't have a specific answer for the specific program that you're inquiring about, I'll be happy to find somebody in the right department that can be able to get back to you. We also do have, sorry, it blanked out. We also do have, as I said, some Pakistani students on campus. So if you wanted to hear from them directly, I'd be happy to, and you want me to, I'll be happy to connect you with some of them who are on campus so you can ask them more specific questions about student experiences on campus and so on. And I'm sure they'll be happy to respond as well. So hopefully this will be the beginning of a brilliant journey, and I hope that you do show up on campus someday. And I'm an international student myself. As I said, I came from Kenya previously, and it's been great to be here. I love the campus. I finished school, going to school here, then started working for the institution. So as I said, again, those opportunities are there. So let's start that journey together, and I hope to hear from you guys.
Thank you so much, Grace. Thank you for your time. Take care.
Thank you. See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye. For those of you who are still logged in, just another reminder, the webinar will be available online in just a couple of minutes. As soon as the clock strikes 8 o'clock, it will be recorded. It will be available on the top left section of this page where it says shared files. Please do click on shared files and you have the opportunity to view the webinar in its entirety. It will be titled WVU webinar. Thank you. Goodbye.